So if you haven't been paying attention, recently Apple became a $1 trillion company. Their market cap has surpassed $1 trillion. I was shocked to see that Apple surpassed $1 trillion. I didn't know they were that close. I was actually doing another video where I was actually screen recording my phone for the video. It's actually the video before this, and I saw that Apple had passed $1 trillion. So I'd love to hear what you guys think about that, as far as, is Apple still a good investment or not? Hey, so what's up guys? Welcome back to the channel. If you're new here on this channel, pretty much I like to talk about money, talk about investments, talk about wiser ways to invest, but more importantly, we like to make information basic so everybody can understand it. As always, real quick, guys, just remember that these thoughts and these comments that I am sharing in this video, they're of my own, and you're encouraged to do your own research. Cool. So apparently Apple is still doing their thing. I mean, after Steve Jobs passed, everybody wanted to know, what would Apple do? Would it still thrive? Would they still be creative? And apparently they are still doing their thing. They're very creative. Personally, in our house, we use a lot of Apple products. I stand by the product. I really like it, especially being in business. I like the compatibility for the products between like the phones and the tablets, etc., etc. That really makes it easy and simple to just be able to send information or transfer information around. However, Apple's talk, like the talk of Apple, like how they used to be hyped up a lot, you know, it kind of died down a little bit, especially when you have the Android companies like Galaxy and even Google coming out with their new phone and things like that. You know, it started to die down just a little bit. So you really didn't hear a lot about, you know, Apple surpassing the $1 trillion mark. You know, it was highlighted, but that was about it. So obviously Apple on the business side, they are definitely thriving. They're still growing. You know, if you look at their stock price, it's steadily climbing, you know, which is good. They have a really, really good dividend for people who are looking for, you know, a good dividend play. But business wise, they are still doing great. They have a great balance sheet. I mean, their income, their revenue, it's still going very, very well. They're even increasing in sales with things like their iPads that have, you know, increased over the past few years, because it wasn't really increasing. Their sales for like the iPads wasn't really growing as much as, you know, as expected, but recently it has. And so now we're getting close to the time where Apple starts to make their announcements for the quarter of the new phones that's about to come out, you know, at the end of this year. And I'm excited to see. Now, if you keep up with tech a little bit like I do, then you know that Apple is coming out with 3 new phones. Now, in the addition with them coming out with 3 new phones, they've also started to do some things to cater to people who can't afford to purchase those high-end phones. That doesn't really mean that it's like extremely cheaper, but it's just a little bit cheaper. You know, like, you know, a small discount, not a big discount, but, you know, some type of discount. So they have like a new like value phone, like the iPhone X, iPhone 10, whatever you want to call it, where it's supposed to be a little bit cheaper. And then you also have one coming, like some value prices coming out for some of the, you know, the tablets as well as the MacBooks as well. So that's going to be interesting to see how that works and how they try to cater to the economy on both ends, to see, you know, what features are off of those phones and those tablets and Mac Airs that may be a little bit cheaper, and what features are on the ones that are a little bit more expensive. But they are definitely making moves and still creating new product. They have also recently stepped into the home phase, you know, like Alexa. They have Siri that is now, you know, becoming available to be in, you know, the homes just like that. So instead of saying, hey Alexa, you'll be able to say, hey Siri. So I wonder how those things will play out. And I'm very interested to see how they do with the sale of these next set of phones coming out, because if I'm not mistaken, they have recently severed their ties with Qualcomm, and they're going to be working with Intel as far as their chips. So will the phones be faster? Will the products be faster? Will they be slower? You never know in the tech industry, because there's always these ideas and things that get bounced around, and people are always trying to sue and say who started what. You have people leaving from this company and then going to the other company and sharing secrets, and you get all that stuff tangled up. So I'm interested to see how things play out after they've had, some changes over these past few years, especially this past year, and how that's going to affect their sales. So if things continue to do what it's been doing, right underneath everyone's nose, then they're pretty much going to be a company that is still growing and still thriving. Seems like they're making very smart moves. So me being someone that's a long-term investor, I actually do have Apple in, one of my portfolios as a company that makes sense for me to invest in long term, just because I use the products, I believe in the products, and they're still innovating. I think Apple is good for a stock that has a really good dividend. That was my biggest basis, was to invest in them because of their dividend. I have other growth stocks and growth companies that are just as well, that you've probably heard me mention, in some of my other previous videos. But overall, that is my whole basis behind Apple, is their dividend. I love companies that have good yields, good dividends, and that are constantly growing, and as well, they're not afraid to increase their yields as well, their dividend. So what is a dividend? A dividend is basically like profit sharing. If you own shares, then the company shares profits, and they divvy those profits out over the amount of the investors that they have. So they have like a profit sharing pool, and that money gets split out amongst all the shareholders. So let's say you have one share of a particular company and the dividend is 10 cents. So if they pay that dividend out 3 times a year, then that means 3 times a year you're going to get 10 cents for having that one share. And I think Apple is just a phenomenal dividend company to hold if you're looking to have your money not just grow, but also make money in the process. So now, Apple being a tech stock like it is, that means, tech companies, they go through large swings. They go through, they can be up $10 one day, $20 one day, and then the next day they can actually be down, $10, $20 just very, very easily. Just like in the previous video I made about, buy, sell, or hold, Facebook, Facebook dropped down $40 just like that. And so tech swings very fast. Now, if you're playing things long term, I don't think you have anything to worry about for most of the popular tech companies. Like I said in the Facebook video, if there's something really, really wrong, you're going to know that something is really wrong, and to beware if you're trying to invest in a company or if it's time for you to move your money and take your money out. With Apple, I think Apple is in the same space as Facebook is in terms of its longevity and its future, far as how things are right now, primarily based off of the consumer and how we consume and the things that we want, the things that we like, the things that we're intrigued by and we're looking for. So Apple may not have been like the talk of the year, far as their news and everything going on with them. However, with them coming out with their new phones, everybody's watching. Everybody's always, wants to see what is Apple doing next. People are standing in lines. The Apple store is always crowded. Like where I live at, there is only one Apple store. And I think like a 20, 30 mile, probably even longer radius. And any given day it's open, it is always crowded. People are always going into the store, having to get things fixed, or they're just playing with their iPhones or their tablets or whatever. And the thing with Apple is, because they have started to make so many different changes, they make it hard for you to use other places and use other equipment with their phones, meaning that they are trying to own the market share for their own product, that you get an Apple. If you need to get something for it, it has to be compatible with another Apple product. Kind of like what they're doing in the auto industry, where it's hard for you to do simple things to your car like you used to do. Now you have to take it in the shop to get it done. They're making very similar moves like that, which definitely controls their revenue. And this year marks the 10-year anniversary for Apple. So I wonder what surprises they have up their sleeve that's going to pretty much drive their sales. So for me, having Apple, I'm definitely holding on to Apple stock. I think Apple is very good for dividends, so I don't see a problem with buying it. It just may be a little bit on the expensive side because it's over $200 a share. However, I think it's a pretty cool, safe place, at least right now, I know it is, that you can put your money into, and you know that you're going to get some type of growth, whether it's through the company growing or it's through their dividend. So as always on these videos, I want to hear what you think. I want to hear what you if you're buying or if you're selling Apple, or if you think it's overpriced, or what are your thoughts about Apple? I'd love to hear in the comments. And till the next video, you guys, peace.